Well, hello. This is Dr. Chris Lemmon. I hesitated for a second because my computer wasn't giving me feedback. This wonderful world of technology. Um, this is my chat for January. We're going to start a new way of playing with things in January. Um, I never thought that I'd be going on this many years with this model. Um, and and for the most part, I've got maybe 100 and some listeners out there. Uh, I'm actually doing this to help me process life. I get lots and lots of people that I have chats with. I talk on the phone. I've got clients, and they ask questions. And so the more experience I can get, the more range that I have, the more applicable the answers I give, or at least directions towards an answer we give. And so we'll play with some of those ideas this year. The first thing I really want to talk about is starting off is like, why, right? Why? Uh, I don't know. Everybody has their story on that. But my story is that I think the very nature of us humans here is to be able to integrate a concept or an idea and imagine potential and see if we can bring it into the package of this game on the planet that's been here much, much longer than we have. Um, and so I'm looking at some research currently. Let me show you Stanislaus here, if his book comes out. And that's just one of a multitude of books that Dehane actually has published. And he's a researcher. He works with computers. And now they've got fMRIs down to a safe level where there's no radiation. So they can actually start to scan brains on an infant. So about 5 days old, they start to scan brains. They can use stimulus response. They can look at what it does in the brain. It's kind of amazing stuff. Like I said, he's got a multitude of books out. He even has one with pictures in it. They can go in and scan in your brain, and once they get familiar with how you uniquely pattern things, they can then come up with pictures that are images in your head. It's trippy. So it's fun. There's some really good things that we'll get into this year about science, and there's some really challenging problems that we have with science. And and the dance is just exactly what I'm getting to right now. Um, if what we find from brain scans is that from a brain scan, we find that what children have starting around maybe 10 days old, they have the ability to deal with first level abstraction. In other words, we anticipate things. We're born anticipating things. So, and that is the nature of potential. Potential is an imagined idea, and we're anticipating some of it will work. Come on, we've all tried to build something, do something, play a game, had a strategy, and we're anticipating it's going to work. So that is our skill set. Coming in the door, our skill set is being able to anticipate. And and if you want to find more about, read one of his books. But usually I would present this in a multitude of ways of like people coming with ideas and developing ideas by getting out of trying to find it in a logical thinking process and like take a vacation and all of a sudden the inspiration comes to them. We need to get into a mode of anticipating something rather than try to think it through, right? Our thinking it through produces what we call stories. So literally, we anticipate something and we don't have all the statistics or parameters or data. So then we just make up the rest. It's a good way to start the process. When you're starting something you may not know, you'll have a bunch of ideas, and then you go, okay, well, that didn't work, but this will work instead. And you refine it. That's exactly how we do that. We do it with first level abstraction. We anticipate, we anticipate, we anticipate. So since we process that way, when we get into a time of a high demand, a crisis time, you guys come on, look at all the conspiracy theory stuff. It's like they get up one piece and they make up all the rest. And I'm not saying everyone's that way. I'm just saying that's a general rule of thumb. And and that's exactly what we're designed to do. So if if we had the old days where people would get together and meet and talk, someone would bring that idea and we'd all dialogue it and we'd have that conversation. But now when it's presented, you have thousands of people out there listening to it, and there's no feedback. There's no data. I have no feedback on this. I'm really delighted when I hear from you guys because that's my feedback, right? So this is a nature. So what we started teaching when I started teaching classes, yes, I took a lot of classes from other people. I got involved in a multitude of different things. I can remember way back. Oh, I don't know. I think I was married and my daughter was born. So my daughter was around at the time. I went over to these people's house, an older couple, maybe not as old as I am, but they were older, probably both retired. And they had a group of people they met with every week. And their little slick is you would go into their living room. They had double curtains, so that it was totally dark in the daytime. They had a box sitting on a table. It was just an empty wooden crate that they had found, and they set it on a table. Everybody sits in chairs around it, and they would do some little intonation, whatever, and all of a sudden an image would appear in a box, and then people would ask questions of the image. That was really kind of cool. So I went there and I didn't care. The image was kind of a bright yellow. So I thought that looks a little Chinese. So I thought maybe we should have the eyes be a little more slanty. So next thing I know, I see the eyes get a little more slanty and people are freaking out. Pretty soon they have decided that I was a bad influence. They requested I don't come anymore because I was changing their game a little bit. And yes, I'm guilty of that because I was imagining in a different sort of way. And so, can we influence it? Can we change it? Do you understand? If the game is just simply a potential that we imagine and bring into play, bringing into play means make it redundant. These people every Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon met or whatever that was. So there's a redundancy. They got into it. Was the head in there? Well, the potential for the head was in there, and they were able to bring that potential into form and expression. Cool. So if we humans need a reason to be here, that's it. That's what we can do. That's the magic of it all. It's like, wow, that's cool. We can only do that for a period of time. And that's another whole story I'll get into later, and it has to do with the nature of things. We're, we're, we're bringing a skill set in to a playing field that's already set up, right? It's kind of like learning to play soccer. You can be a really good soccer player, but some days you're going to get rained on. Some days you may get stowed on. And some days it's going to be 110 degrees out there, depending where you're playing. So even though you may be the best soccer player, you're going to be influenced by those varying conditions. Do you get this? There's more complexity to it. And this is the problem. We miss the complexity. So when we started teaching classes from all the places I've taken, they were all different. But the place I stayed longer is Berkeley Psychic Institute. Um, and I stayed there longer because of the fact that it was a rather large organization and I could move around within the dynamics of it. And, I got to talk to people in one facility and then I went somewhere else and I went somewhere else. And all of a sudden I started kind of getting a bigger view. They didn't operate all the same. And so then for the guy who started it, we started having dialogue about that. It's like, wow. And then he sent me to one of the institutes to kind of like get everybody in the line. But it's like, it's a you go in and have got to sell someone an idea to get in alignment with everyone else, and it's like it's just bizarre. It's the nature of it is that we like to get the idea of unifying. If we could meet on a regular basis and have a dialogue, we could probably stay a little more unified, but there's going to be a lot of variation, and that is our value. That to have that diversity and value is our variation. So the first classes that came into utility, like I said, I've learned them from several other people. They all had long stories to it. Um, and that is to be able to not abandon your idea, making up stories, and being able to play off of that and then fill in details. But it's much, much better to be able to start to get a sense of feeling in your body. So like I said before, we have numb places in our body. So if we start to play with body feeling, we'll start to open up those numb places. We start to get energy, if you want to call it anything else. I'm not too sure if it's energy or fluid or what it is flowing. Maybe it's just awareness that's flowing. But we start to get aware of our body. We start to feel our toes. We start to feel our fingertips. We start to feel the back of our head. We start to feel lower back. And we get a sense of feeling. So we just put together a protocol that's really simple to map that out. And that's why I said I started using BPI system of grounding and running your energy, whatever their story was. There are other people that have very similar systems. In Buddhists, you do it with breath, and you bring breath in, and breath becomes the mapping for moving the energy through your body. It's all the same thing, right? So there's a lot of them. I just simply a preference. I've had people I've taught, and then after I have taught them, I'm working with them a year later, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're doing it different than where I showed them, but it's okay. It's working. So we start to get a feeling and utilize this biomass that we have to be able to start to feel what's going on. So what we then in those days, way back, remember I'm old, way back then, we'd had the story of like, if I can feel this, if I can get my head around this, if I can feel this in my body, I feel the validation of that in my body. It's like, wow, it's kind of interesting. That appeared to start to influence other people. Back to my story about the people in a room that saw a picture ahead in a box that was yellow, uh, but not Chinese, I guess. Anyway, uh, so it's that same type of thing. It's like, can that be an influence? Well, now today, science has proved over and over again, thousands of experiments, that they can seed a group, put one person in there, not have them talk, and they can affect or influence that group. So do we get ideas from people walking on the street? Do we get ideas from, yes, we get ideas from all of that. And we most certainly do. We may integrate it into a story index if it's enough influence. If they're depressed enough, we might start to feel a little depressed. We might sit there and say, it's all, you feel kind of funny today. I don't know why. I just feel like I got no imp, having a cup, you're meeting someone for coffee and you felt energetic until you got there and walking down the street, you were standing in a street corner waiting for light to change next to a homeless person, and all of a sudden you felt lifeless and liftless. It's like, wow. So they've influenced you. So the nature of influence is there, but it's not very well managed because when we try to put it into a story, it doesn't really orchestrate as a story index. It doesn't orchestrate as well with a dialogue. It orchestrates better if you feel it and you feel a certain way in your body. So the very, very first thing when you're starting to work with potential in your life, can you bring more potential in? Remember when I say bring potential in, I mean take an idea and make it redundant. Life is about redundancy. We have this thing called time. So if we repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, we say now we're learning it, right? So the thing that we don't have is we don't have a very big span of attention. Spend a little bit of time with a 4-year-old or 3-year-old, they have really short span of attention. So that's why we have an educational system. Educational system used to in tribal days was simply the old man teaching the young people, but eventually it got more sophisticated, and now we send kids to school. We send them to school and they learn to read, they learn 2 + 2 is 4, they learn all those things. But what those things are teaching them is a bigger span of attention. They have to attend to it long enough. When you get into algebra and concepts and calculus, trigonometry, you've got a bigger span of attention. You have more variables, you have more pieces to do. So I get a kick out of people that say they're attention deficit disorder, ADD. It's like, so what were your grades like in school? Oh, I didn't like school. I cut school a lot. I thought like, so they never developed that attention span. But but in your world of feeling, you can sit with something, feel it. Go sit by a lake and feel it. Go to a park and feel the trees. Feel the kids playing out there. Feel what's going on. You can feel that in your body. You can feel those exchanges. So it's a very authentic way of being able to get a sense of things. Now, yes, depends on your level of numbness. You know, So I used to have a lot of students come in and they're trying to get off of drugs and they're trying to get their life together. And it's kind of like I'm chit-chatting with a little bit. And I've actually had quite a few of them. I say, you need to go down the street to the church and join that organization and come back next year because they needed to get structure. Uh, when you meet once a week, you don't provide very much structure. You need to have more protocols and more demand. A church most certainly will have a structure and more demand. Yeah, I could have said, go sign up for a college class. I could say anything, but it was easier to tell them that, you're not happy with life, you're depressed. Go to that church and meet some people, have some discussion groups, you know, and because that will start to feel the dynamic of what will make the difference for you. So feeling is really very, very important. Get that sense of to sit with something. And lots of people that have a problem they're trying to resolve and they go, "Hi, I'm trying this, trying this." They got to stop and sit down and rest for a minute, get distracted, go do something, make a cup of coffee, whatever, and then come back to it. And all of a sudden it's like it starts to open up because we're creating an argument in our story index for which is true, looking for a truth. If we move our body around, get out of that story index, come back and sit down, all of a sudden this will start to flow. More variations, more potential, more comes into play. And that's the natural flow of it. And so that's the nature. Eventually, when you play with this long enough and the body starts to be able to sense and feel this, then when someone's telling you something, you can help someone. You can start to put an influence. You're not controlling anything. You're not managing the world. You're starting to influence, right? Just like you go vote in an election, you have a little bit of an influence. You can then all of a sudden, one, if you're moving and you got four or five friends come over, it makes it a lot easier. And so if your four or five friends all come over and are all conscious and aware and they don't fall down all the time or break things, then it's even better yet, right? So depends who you pick for friends. Less yet, who's going to come over and help you move. So those are the elements. So if you have a friend and you have a sense of feeling about them, I have had so many people tell me, I'm looking for some help moving. Do you have some time? Oh, I'm retired. So yeah, I got time. I can help you. And and I said, so where are all your friends at? And he said, well, they're all kind of flaky. So I got you and I got this lady over here and I got this other guy. And, but the rest of the people I know, I really can't rely on to move. So that's it. That doesn't come from an intellect. That comes from him spending time with them. He likes the people. They're okay. They're nice when he sits with them and they're relaxed. They don't have a lot of tension. They don't have an argument. They're easy to sit with. He gets it in feeling, but he also sees in their behavior that their span's too short. It just doesn't make any difference. So all I'm getting is that we have huge potential. Our task on the planet is to bring potential into form, but an experiment, let's call it, right, whatever. So if we can bring it into nature, to the form of redundancy on the planet, we can then exercise that potential. Now, what is going to happen with potential? I don't know. I would imagine we'll probably have to wait a few more thousand years to see what that's going to materialize. But it needs to be seeded. It needs to be started. We've been, what, here, 4,000 years, and it's, you know, 14 million years old, billion years old. So when you start to look at this, it's like we've got a very small imprint on here. And and the things that work are the things that have integrated into the package called nature. And the things that are struggling and still not working are the things that are disruptive to the thing called nature. Come on, a weatherman still has a hard time predicting weather. It's a chaotic system. And all pretty much nature has chaotic systems. So if you can look at a chaotic system for a human, it just means that we're going to play the game so long and die, right? Because that's a a run on the system. We have lots of bifurcations along the way, but it's a deterministic chaotic system. So the determined piece is that game's over. Can we change that over time? Can we change that in a few thousand years? Maybe. I'm not predicting that in a week. That's an influence that I'm not all sure that I can pull off, but be fun to play with. Anyway, so you start to get, it's like get out of the story piece because it doesn't, we like to label everything in our story true, but it's utility, not a truth. And so it's something we want to test, but we like to label it truth, bad habit. We really need to get back into our body and start to feel things. And then we feel things. We don't feel when I reach out and touch something, going like I might still have a question of what that material is. What is that made of? I'm touching it. I'm searching. I don't label things that I feel as truth as quickly as I do things I've processed in my brain. So the first lesson for 2026 is get out of your stories. Kind of start to get back in your body and feel things a little bit and start to build a relationship to that. Yes. And then you'll talk about when you say, I feel this way about it, it doesn't mean it's a story we made up. It means you feel that in your body. And it takes a little while to get that sense. All right. I'm going to try to keep these short this year. I've got some goals that we want to do, and I want to see if we can um, bring some sense to the game that we're in the midst of it. Because right now, things are pretty much a chaotic mess. I would say that we're kind of on the verge of chaos, and 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 so that's just the very of life, nature of life. Life on planet goes from one chaotic system to another, right? And so anyway, there we sit, and we're trying to make the best of it. And so your good resource for you is feeling. So feel that. If you have questions, go ahead and email me, chris@wizardscatch.com. I'd be glad to answer your questions. I'm delighted to hear from you. If you've already worked with some of this and you get a sense of being able to kind of ground your body, that means feel the planet Earth over top of you, right? And then that allows you to feel things in reference to that planet Earth. It has movement, it has direction, it has force. So by feeling that, you're canceling those pieces out and you're feeling what is there in addition to. What is there in addition to is what you're going to get your information from. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to finding the button in the corner. Yeah. Okay. And so we'll chat next month.